Well, hello there. I'm Shanna, sounds like banana, and this is a creatively uncorked painting tutorial, Dragonfly over cattails. I have my tracing template, and members will have access to this. You can get a membership at members.creativelyuncorked.com, and I just use that to transfer the image to my canvas. I'm using acrylic paint today. Colors are blue, teal, yellow, white, black, and red. I have 3 brushes. The big brush, which is a large filbert brush, medium brush, which is a 1/2 inch flat, and then a small round. Other supplies are paper towel, cup of water, and I have some spare paint over here as well. Now this scene I've already sketched over it with, this is Sharpie. The reason I'm using Sharpie is because it's pretty tough to paint over. You can still see it even though you've got a couple of layers of paint, and that's what we're going to use today. So I'm starting with my big brush and painting in the background. Your cheat sheet is right up here, so you can see what that painting is going to look like. And I'm going to start at the top, work my way down, and then come back and add some of the greens. So to start out with, let's take kind of a lot of white here. I'm doing my blue sky, which is pretty light, and even a little bit of turquoise. So I'm mixing blue, white, a little bit of turquoise, or teal, or green. I'll probably call that color all of those things. All right, so here's my light sky, my blue sky. So I'm just going to go ahead and scribble this in. Lovely. Some of the lines that are painted on here, this one will be the horizon. That's where we've got the grasses growing up in the background. And you can see that as I'm painting over this Sharpie, it still shows up. Pretty handy, right? Okay, taking a little bit more blue, a little bit more teal, a little bit less white as I work my way down. So this is all going to be green behind here. But I want to make sure that I have blue in the background. The green is going to cover a lot of it up, but I want to make sure that there's no blank canvas showing through. So that's why I'm covering this. And I'll keep right on going. This is going to be a cattail, or no, I'm sorry, this is going to be a, what do you call it? Lily pad. Whew, oh boy, here we go. Into the water. Now I'm painting water using horizontal brush strokes, as nature intended. And this is just to keep it looking like it's still water. Now this water is getting darker and darker and darker as you go toward the bottom. So I'm taking just turquoise or just teal and blue here, no white. Of course there's still a little bit of white in my dirty paintbrush, and that's fine. But I'm not going to add additional white. All right. Okay, so there we go. We've got this covered in watercolor. Well, it's acrylic paint, but the color of the water and the color of the sky. I'm still able to see through most of this to see where my dragonfly is going to be. So I'm just taking this brush now, wiping off the excess paint, and now going right into the green. So I'm starting, oops, here, take a look at this image over here. I'm starting at the top. I want to get that horizon line in, and I want to get the greens that grow in over here. I'll work on some lily pads and the greens that come up the side. Green is going to be a lot of yellow, a little bit of turquoise, and some white. Okay, and I'm just comparing colors here. That might be a little too bright, so I'll just dull it down with some blue. because that turquoise and the white make a really, really bright green. Okay, so here's my green. So I'm just adding my horizon line. Beware of sticking your elbow in wet paint. It's too late for me, but you still have a chance. Okay, so I'm just dragging the brush. Less paint on that than that, I think. So just dragging the edge of the brush skyward. And this will get some kind of grassy look in the background. Just a little color variation in here, get it to blend into the background. I don't want it to stand out too much because it's just a background. Okay, now I have a little bit of, see, I'll take a little more blue and a little bit of reflection of the green in the water. Okay, enough. All right, so the next greens that I want to look at, this is just going to be background. All right, so now I have some green grasses coming in on the side, and I have a line, a horizon line, right below the wing on the right-hand side. And I'll just add it right over to the other side as well. Okay, so we're adding a little bit of green to both sides. And here we go. We'll start with the dark. Getting mostly dark blue in that green. And just kind of holding the brush, so I'm pulling up with the edge of the brush, the skinny side of the brush. Wiping off the excess paint, picking up a little more dark blue. And I want that little dark blue down here to be the reflection. So I'm going right below the lily pad. Just pulling some brush strokes down. And I can come back and darken those later. Right, here we go. We have a little more reflection of the blue down on the right side. And again with the grasses, we'll start with the shadows of the grasses, the reeds, the cattails. Keep picking up new paint here. If your background isn't dry yet, you'll be picking up paint every time you lay down new brush strokes. And that's fine, that's just the way it works. But if you get too much, then you'll just have to stop, clean off the brush, and pick up clean paint a little bit more often. Okay, so I've got those shadows in. While I'm working on that, I'm also going to come straight down to the bottom of the canvas, and I have some dark grasses down in here too. So I'm adding the shadows to those grasses. Don't go overboard, not adding that many. A little bit on the right, a little bit more on the left. Now this probably doesn't look like reeds or cattails or anything like that right now because we're building this up in layers. So we're starting out with the background color first. And the background color here in this case is the shadows. So we've got those shadows that we see through all those cattails and reeds. Okay, stop there, wipe off my brush. And now I'm taking a look at some of these. Let's see, I think I'll take that big brush, put it in the water, and add my lily pads with the medium brush. So now I've got that 1/2 inch flat. I want to go back to a more green, so I want to go back to where it's more yellow, a little white, and turquoise. If your paint is thick, go ahead and add a little bit of water to it. We can mix water in with acrylic paint, which is what makes it pretty handy. Okay, so now I'll come back and find my lily pads. I painted over the lines and I'm not seeing them very clearly. Good thing that doesn't really matter. Lily pads are kind of just these floating little globs. I mean, you can get as complicated as you want with them, but the less complicated, actually, the more natural they look. That's a little too dark. Coming back with a lighter color. And where else? I think we have one down here. You can put as many or as few of these lily pads as you want. Some people think lily pads are weeds. I think they're beautiful. So I don't mind seeing them. Okay. I think that's enough lily pads for now. Actually, I want to fix this one over here, make that look like a lily pad. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. All right. Now we can start on some of the lighter grasses. So up here we've got the cattails, and now we've got some of the lighter greens in those cattails. So I'll take a little bit of water, add that to my light green. And when you're adding water to your paint, you always just take a little bit of water from your water cup and then you stir that in on your plate, then go to your canvas. All right, so I've got this lighter green, and I'll add some reeds. So what I'm doing here is I loaded up the flat brush and I'm using the skinny edge. Okay, if you start picking up too much paint, wipe off your brush and pick up clean paint. So now that we've got that dark blue in the background and then we've got the lighter green over the top, it really adds a lot of depth to this painting. Okay, so that's the technique, and I'll just keep doing that over on this side as well. Get some more cattails and reeds on the right hand side. A little more yellow, a little more white. Okay, it's looking pretty good. All right, so now I'm going to come down to the bottom of the canvas. Same thing, I'm thinning out my paint a little bit by adding water to it, mixing it in. A little more white, a little more yellow. And then down here in front, I'll start making some taller reeds. There, a couple of, there we are, some grasses in the front. Lovely, gorgeous. Okay, moving on. All right, I think at this point I want to leave both of my used brushes in the water. I've got the big brush and the medium brush. I'm just going to let them soak in the water so they don't dry out. If the paint dries on those brushes, it is permanent. Bad for brushes, very bad for brushes. So now I'm taking my small round and dipping it in the blue. And what I'm doing with this is a little bit of shadows, a little bit of reflections. So I'm kind of going underneath my lily pads. Okay, just adding a little bit of depth in here. I think I can even go above the lily pad, add some more shadows back in there. And really all I'm doing here is just creating depth. And we'll just keep in mind that this is still just a background. No need to go overboard on it. There, just adding my shadows around the bottoms of these cute little lily pads. And if you want to add lines, because they always have a line, right? Like that, kind of almost a piece of pie cut out, that little dash. There, so just go ahead and add some little lines wherever you think you need them, here and there. You can even make little like reflections in the water. Just pull the color, some of the color straight down. The surface of the water, we want to have horizontal brush strokes. For the reflections, that will be vertical brush strokes. Okay, rinsing that brush out, and now I'm going to come back with, taking a look up here, you can see that it's got some white lines, kind of some water flowing movements around those lily pads. So we'll try that. So I'm taking some white, mixing in with a tiny amount of blue, a little bit of water. Anytime you're painting water, you're painting it with watery paint. So I'm just adding a little touch of water into my paint, stirring it in. Okay. Oh, looks like I missed a big lily pad. Well, this is your painting. You do it how you want. If you want all of those lily pads exactly where they are, by all means, add them. But if you don't, don't. I'm just putting it here because I want to have my water lines kind of flowing around like the original. There. There, and I'll come back and take this dark blue and add. Oh, a little too watery. So if you have too much water in your brush and you have paint on it, all I'm doing is pressing this down onto the paper towel, and that will soak up the water out of the brush and leave the paint behind, which is exactly what I'm looking for here. Okay, back to my white lines. So now I'm back to my small brush, and I have the white. And I think this is probably going to be an optional step. It's not a very natural flow for water, but it does break up the surface area. So it gives us a little bit of movement. Okay. Enough of that. Now, dropping my small brush into the water, going back to my medium brush. At this point, my background is done. If you want to take a break, you can take a break. Actually, I'd recommend it. Dry your background, walk away from your canvas for a little bit, just not for too long, because you'll want to come back and keep painting before all your paint dries out on your plate. That's a real danger. I mean, if you forget about it. Okay, so now I have my dragonfly that I want to paint, and taking a look up here at the dragonfly's wings, you can see through them into that background, but the background that you see is pretty darn blurry. So I'm just going to take some colors here, some colors of the background, and maybe lighter than that. I want it to be pretty similar to the background because you're looking through the wings. But blurry. So to make it blurry, I'm just putting blobs. Maybe some darker blue blobs. Just picking up whatever colors are in the background that I want to have show through the wings, and just blobbing it in there. As long as I'm staying inside the line of the wings, it's going to look exactly how it should. Okay, just make sure your color's all blurred. There you go, finger painting, that makes it nice and blurred. All right, more green on the bottom wing. Just keep right on going with that technique. I'll even make a little more blue out toward the end. Okay, wiping that paint off, picking up more white. to be a little bit lighter in here. Just adding my little blur blobs. Okay, keep right on going. I'll have a little bit more of that green, a little bit more of that light blue, and just go right on to the next wing. Keep right on going, a little darker. It should be a similar color to the background, just blurry. There we are. Now I'm going to add in a little bit of green, a little bit of blue. Just mush some color into there. Just keep it blurry. A little bit of dark color going into that blue. Try to get my wings to kind of match each other if I could do that. That would be nice. Of course, every wing is going to be different. This is nature. It's all organic. Nothing is ever exactly the same or exactly right. So yeah, if our wings don't entirely match up, that is just fine. And I am just blurring in my background color with my fingertip. Yup, finger painting. You got it. Okay, I might lighten that up a little bit later, but for now, I am taking that big brush and I'm dropping that in the water. Switching back to my small brush. And this time I'll be taking black and blue. I want this to be a very dark color. So I'm just taking black and blue and get all this stuff out of my way so I don't stick my arm in any more paint. And there we go. So just a little upside down bowl, and that's going to be the dragonfly's head. And below that is where the body connects. No legs on this guy because he's flying. Okay, I know I'm probably sticking my arm in the way, but all I'm doing is just filling in this dragonfly tail with my dark color. And you can use just plain black if you'd rather not mix anything. I'm just mixing a little tiny bit of blue in with my black. It'll all end up the same anyway. Okay, I'll take some color. Let's see if I can get a little bit of a texture in the background here. So this is red. Just making a little color in the background. And if you want to kind of try adding highlights on some of these segments, you can do that. I'm not going to put too much detail down this dragonfly. Okay, and then a lighter color, so I just have this kind of white on a dirty brush, and that's just going to be kind of the tops of my eyes a little bit. Okay, and stop. All right, I'm going to leave that as it is. Let it go. Rinsing the brush really well because I want to start with a cleaner color. Same small brush. And this time I'm going into the white, water mixed with white. Just kind of stirring that in a little bit so I have a thinner white to work with. All right, and now I'm going to work on those wings. So I'm just kind of following along the bottoms of the wings. This would be a nice little light reflection. Keeping it thin, keeping it watery. I'll go along the next wing as well. And I am doing this on the bottoms of the wings. The tops of the wings are going to get some different treatment. Okay, so we've got some nice reflections there. And while I have that light color on my brush, I'm just going to mix in a little bit, maybe a lighter blue. I want this to be lighter than the dragonfly's wing colors right now. There, so I can just sort of brighten them up a little, separate them from the background. We originally started matching the background, now we're separating some of the details from the background. A little more water. That really light blue again. Just making little details, just kind of bringing out the wings a little. Okay, before I get too involved in that, I'm rinsing out my brush again, going back to the white, watery white again. And this time, mix up that watery white, kind of roll your brush in it so you can get as fine a point as you can get on this brush. Make sure you don't have a bunch of water. So I'm just going to hold that up against the paper towel and just soak up the extra water on the brush, okay, because I don't want this dripping. All right, now we have those fun little details. So I can do, and now this is a very light touch with a very watery paint. That's how you get the thin lines. If you're not getting thin lines, you could use a smaller brush, but more likely you just need to use a lighter touch and thinner paint, waterier paint. I'm just going to rotate this around a little so I can not stick my arms in wet paint anymore. Good luck, right? Okay, looking pretty okay. And I'll rinse that out and then move on to a slightly darker color. And when I say slightly darker, I mean darker than the wings. So on the original up here, it's more like black lines. We're not going to go with black lines. We're going to do blue. And not even that blue. So they're going to be, I'm going to take this darker blue from the middle here. It still has to be watery because we still want thin lines. Okay, and then we can press down and then pull out, press down and then pull out. There, now we're going to get some of the texture of those wings. Take some of that thinned out blue again. And we're just doing little lines like you'd see on a dragonfly's wing. Just little thin lines. All right. Let's see. What do we want to do with those eyes? I'm not very happy with them. Let's try to adjust it. Taking my small brush and black paint. And maybe I'll just paint those eyes in black. How's that? Helping? I think so. All right, so what else do we want to do? I think I'm going to need a little bit more color. Still working with that small brush, and I'm mixing white and yellow because I want some highlights. Is that too bright? no, I don't think it's too bright at all. So I'll just add some highlights here to my lily pads. Okay, I don't need to go too overboard. Just want to add a few little highlights here and there. Come back with some green. This one's really standing out. There. Just adding a slightly different color into some of these lily pads here. I can add some yellow and white for highlight and then add a little bit of blue for kind of a shadowier color. Just mix it up a little. Okay, we can add some brighter yellows up here if we want, into our taller grasses in the back. Just get some nice variation. All right, I think it's time to add those cattails. Rinsing out my small brush again. And cattail color is going to be brown or dark orange, however you want to look at it. So I'm just taking a lot of yellow, a little bit of red, little tiny bit of blue. Red and blue are pretty powerful colors, so they're going to overpower your yellow very quickly, or your white, or whatever colors you're using in here. I'll be using both white, yellow, red, and a little bit of blue. Okay, so my goal here is to make this a brownish, maybe kind of a lively reddish brown, but brownish anyway. Okay, so this is going to be my cattail color, and it's okay if it's not exactly brown. It can be a variety. Like if you take a look at these cattails up here, and I'm just comparing it to that image, there's a variety of different colors in there. So we'll just do like a have you seen that meme where it's wild corn dogs that are growing in the wild? Yep, a little like that. That's what they look like. Oop. Yes, these are just the tops of the corn dogs. And if you want to add a little bit more blue to a couple of areas, I'm just adding more blue to my brown, to my cattail color. And this can be kind of a shadow if you want to darken a few spots. Ooh, that did not work. Nope, 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 nope. Let's try that again. This time I'm going to start with the red and a little bit of blue. Okay, so my red and my blue and my yellow are my transparent colors. If you want a dark color, it has to be transparent. If you have any white mixed in there, it will not be transparent. And it will not ever get darker than this. So that's why I wanted to start over with a new color, just dark colors. Let's see, so I've got a really dark purple here. This might be a little overpowering, but it might not be. Actually, that might be okay. Okay, just putting some shadows in the bottoms of the corn dogs. The wild corn dogs that grow in the Minnesota lakes and marshes. Okay, don't fact check me. They're not really corn dogs. They're cattails. Okay, so I'll just go back to my other color and get a couple of little blends. Whoops. That color. On some of these really dark shadows, I just want to blend the shadows a little. But I don't want to go overboard on these cattails. They're just background. There. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. What other details do we need? Okay, the red on the back, that's dried out and it's kind of gone flat, so we could add more colors there if we wanted. How about a nice orange? And when I say nice, I mean any color orange that I can come up with what little yellow I have left. Little yellow, little red, little corn dog color. And I'm just going to add a few little stripes on the back. You know, I don't think I like orange on this guy. Let's make him blue. Ooh, we can make him turquoise. Let's do that. Turquoise and a little bit of white. So at this point, your painting is basically done. You can just go on ahead and add whatever adjustments you want to make, like this. That camera's gonna focus, I know it. There. Okay, what do you think we need? Anything? I'm thinking it's looking pretty okay. So I think at this point, sign it, call it done. I do like the teal on that dragonfly a little bit better than the orange, so I think that's what we're going to go with. So thank you for painting along with me. I'm Shanna, sounds like banana. This is Creatively Uncorked, and you'll find this tutorial in your members page. So if members.creativelyuncorked.com, and there you go. You'll have your tracing template to download, and you can paint along. See you next week.